Section 2.4 is on writing linear equations, and it's going to be split into 2 days. For all the problems in this lesson, we're going to want to write an equation in slope-intercept form, which means we need the slope of the line along with the y-intercept. So for this problem, we're given the slope, but instead of being given the y-intercept, we're given a point that's on the line. Now this is not the y-intercept because a y-intercept always has a 0 where the x is, along with some other number. So what we want to do is we want to figure out what that y-intercept is, and we're going to do it by plugging in everything we have. We have the slope, and then we have this other point, which is really just an x and a y. We know slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. At this point, we can plug everything that we have in. So we have an m, and then we have an x and a y. Okay, the only thing that we don't have is that b. So we're going to plug everything in, and then we're just going to solve for the b. Minus 6 minus 6. We get b equals -5. When we plug in the slope, and we plug in that y-intercept. Okay, x and the y stay as x and the y because those are the variables. They'll change with each point. In number 2, we have a very similar problem, except instead of them giving us the slope, we have to find the slope as the first step. So we use the slope equation to find the slope. Remember, slope is rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. It doesn't matter which order you put these points in as long as you stay consistent. So I had done this second point minus the first one, so 12 minus 4 for the y's, and then 5 minus 1 for the x's. If we reverse that and did 4 minus 12, we would have gotten -8 on top, but we also would have reversed the x's, so we would have gotten -4 on the bottom and still would have ended up with +2. All right, so just like the last time, we're going to take our information, we're going to plug it in. So we have 2 points here. We can pick either one, it doesn't matter. So we can either take the 1, 4 and plug it in down here. Okay, so 4 for y, 1 for x, and 2 for the slope. Okay, or we could do it with this other point. So I'm going to do both simultaneously. So over here, we can see we'd subtract 2 from both sides. We would get b equals 2. On this one, we're subtracting 10. In both cases, we get the same answer for the y-intercept. Okay, and that leads us to our answer. Remember, just plug in that slope, y-intercept. And here's one more, pretty much the same as the last one, except our points all include negatives. When you have problems like this, just make sure to write out all the steps. Negatives tend to trip you guys up. So remember, when we're subtracting negatives, we end up changing these to plus signs. So -10 plus 7, -3 on the top, -1 plus 3 is +2 on the bottom. Okay. Also, we have a fraction for a slope for this one, which means we're going to be dealing with fractions in our equations. So we plug it in. I'm going to do both of them at the same time again. So here we're going to have, now remember, just so practicing some fraction work, top times top, bottom times bottom. This is going to be 9/2. All right, if we had done this one instead, okay, it would be +3/2. All right, so depending on which point you chose to plug in, you'd be either on the left side or the right side. Okay, and now when we subtract this to the other side, keep in mind that you need a common denominator. So now we're going to do -9/2 on this side. Okay, this needs a common denominator, needs a 2 on the bottom. Whatever we put on the bottom, we need to put on the top also. So it's going to end up as -14/2. Right, same thing over here. Okay, this would end up being -20/2. And again, we can see these work out to the same thing when we move this -3/2 to the other side, or the -9/2 to the other side on the left there. Both of those would equal -23/2. All right, and our equation, y equals -3/2x minus 23/2. However, that's the equation in slope-intercept form, and this problem is asking for the equation in standard form. So we have to rearrange this. First off, we want the x on the other side to put this in the form ax plus by equals c. So let's add this 3/2x to both sides. And that's going to give us this, 3/2x plus y equals -23/2. The rules for standard form is that this x has to be positive, which it is, and we can't have any fractions. So we need to get rid of both of these fractions here. We can do that by multiplying this whole thing by a 2, multiplying everything by 2 gives us our answer in standard form, 3x plus 2y equals negative 23.